Thanks so much, Damien. Hi, everyone. I'm Merry McCarron. I'm the co-founder of MK Analytics. I'm going to talk about our Crime Gun Connect platform. So a little bit about MK Analytics. We are a 100% women-owned, women-led consulting firm that does data mining and analytics in litigation, law enforcement, and nonprofit organizations. What I'm about to talk about is one of those law enforcement initiatives. So a little bit about Crime Gun Connect. It was developed in partnership with Everytown for Gun Safety, which is a nonprofit, and the Illinois Office of the Attorney General, which is a law enforcement organization in the US. I know we have an international crowd here. And it's been live since 2021. It is absolutely powered by Neo4j and GraphQL, contains data on well over 100,000 Illinois crime guns, and is currently in use by dozens of law enforcement agencies in Illinois, including the Chicago Police Department. There are a couple of key facts to keep in mind. This is very high level because it is a complex system and a complex topic. But to understand why this is so groundbreaking, why it's so important, and why it's a very graph type of problem, you need to understand that in the United States, there is no national database of gun sales. In the state of Illinois, like the vast majority of states in the US, there is no state database of gun sales. And only law enforcement officers are allowed to look up who purchased a gun, and they're only allowed to do so when they are investigating a crime. That is called a gun trace. The way that gun traces work is very manual and it is very brittle. So the way that works is an investigator has recovered a gun, she's got it on her desk, she goes to an online portal, puts in the make, model, and serial number, and sends that to the feds. Federal agent then calls the gun manufacturer and says, hey, I have this serial number. Can you please tell me which gun store you sold that to? Then they call up the gun store and say, hi, could you please tell me what individual you sold this make, model, and serial number to? The gun store then goes into their paper records or their Excel sheet, finds that information, gives it to the feds, and then the feds eventually send that as soon as humanly possible, send that back to the law enforcement officer, generally as a PDF. So this is one of the only places where there is a database that is visual, that collates all of the guns together. And just to be clear, these are only crime guns. So with that in mind, I am going to switch screens real quick so that I can show you a walkthrough of this tool itself. So here we are. I think everybody can see it here. So this is our login page. We're going to log in as me. This is all anonymized and redacted data, but it is real data about crime guns in the state of Illinois. So this is our landing page. You get top-level information about recency and overall trends in guns in the state of Illinois going back to 2010. And you immediately get into sort of the 4 key node types that underlie this database. So that is the address where guns were recovered. That is the name of the people who are involved. So that is the purchaser of the gun or the possessor of the gun at the time of the crime, which might be the same person, but is not always. The serial number of the gun itself, and then the dealer who sold that gun. And this is meant to serve a number of different purposes. So for investigators who know exactly what they're looking for, they can hop in here and they can enter a query for a person at a gun shop. Or if they want to look at their just most recent data, it is meant to be an exploratory tool. It is meant to be a lead generation tool just from the graph itself. So you can go to your 30-day traces, or if you happen to know exactly what time period you want to look at, you can enter that in here. So I'm going to show you all of the results from a 1-month period earlier this year, at the beginning of the summer, which is a time of the year in the United States, unfortunately, when gun violence starts to peak. So this is our search results page. No matter how you entered in those search results, you're going to land here. So you get this very pretty map. And all of these points represent a node. It's a lot there because we did a pretty broad search. But once you click on one of these nodes, we're going to click on a purchaser. We immediately get into what looks recognizably to us like the beginnings of a graph. What you also get here is some quick information about that node that you just clicked on. So I've anonymized this purchaser's information, but you get their name, the number of guns that have been traced to them. And just to emphasize this one more time, that's the number of guns they have purchased that have been recovered as part of a crime. So they may have bought other guns at other periods in time from other dealers. We don't know, and there is no way to know how many of those guns are out there, and if they are in fact in the hands of other people but have not yet been traced in a crime. So you get a couple of other key pieces of information: the average time to crime, which means the time between when a gun was purchased and when it was used in a crime, which is a key metric of the likelihood of the intent of the usage of that gun. And then if you don't want to be clicking around on every single node on that map, you want to be able to browse in a list format. You can go through and you see the same 4 types of nodes here, and you can go through that as a list. You can go through each one of them here. We're looking at purchasers. By default, for purchasers, we sort it by the number of guns that have been recovered and traced to them, but law enforcement officers might want to prioritize their leads in a different way. So maybe the number of possessors that have been connected to that person, maybe the fastest time to crime of purchasers, or you want to look at somebody with the most recent purchase date. You can select sorting by one of those attributes here. So I want to go instead into what we call a detail page. So every one of these nodes has a detail page. It's essentially a profile page. At the top, you get that sort of high-level information. Those 24 guns have come from 4 different dealers. And crucially, they have been with 24 different people. So they have wound up, once investigation has started, that person's guns have wound up in somebody else's hands, which is highly suspicious. So you get that same top-level information here. That little S flag just below their name is a red flag that we have applied. We have a number of additional measures and metrics that we have added onto this data from our work with law enforcement. And that's basically what that means. It's likely this person is a straw purchaser. They intentionally buy guns on behalf of people who can't for one reason or another, probably, criminal record or other red flag laws. And then down in here is where we get into that graph traversal. So this is where investigators can start pulling on the thread and navigating that graph. So you look through and you can see each of the possessors that have been connected to this purchaser, and you would be able to click through in here and look at the detail pages of those people. Same with the dealers here. So we get this high-level information about how big is that dealer in general across all of our database. So they've got 51 other guns out there that are connected to other purchasers as well. And you'd be able to click in there and start navigating through that as well. Same with those recovery lists. You'd be able to get information about the gun, another detail page that has the crime, the date of recovery, which of our many law enforcement partners did recover that gun, so that you can start talking to your peers about, I'm seeing this person as a purchaser in my city. You're seeing them as a purchaser in your city. Can we, share some information? And really encourages that kind of data sharing. I also want to show you sort of the power of that search. So this is an actual chain. I have obviously anonymized it because this is highly sensitive data. But this is real search results for a chain. I'm going to keep it in the same date range. Retailer. And because it is a flexible search, you're able to get all of the locations that have sold at least one crime gun that was recovered in that date period in Illinois. So we've got 13 outlets for that chain in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And you can look at what their overall volume is here. So that chain outlet, number 9, overall in our time period has had 1,423 guns traced to it overall, that's a lot. And if you wanted to sort this differently, if you want to look at, the average time to crime instead, that same ability to sort your guns there and do that prioritization there. And if you clicked on these, you would see that same pop-up card. Finally, I want to show you, this is really rich data. And under the hood, every time one of these searches is done, it's generating a Cypher query. So we turn all of this like really user-friendly. You don't have to be technical at all, and format that into a Cypher query, and it hits our Neo4j database each time. There's so many attributes on these nodes that you can use to use this for lead generation in a different way. So if you want to be, keeping an eye on your homicide guns, and you want to look at ones with a really fast turnaround of time to crime, which is something I mentioned is a strong indicator of intent of the purchase of that gun. So let's grab the homicide guns with less than a 1 year time to crime, which is fast. And we're going to look at just the first half of 2024, and then we'll flip from a dealer search to a location search so that we're not narrowing just to the dealer information. We're getting absolutely everything. We would get the recovery, we get the purchaser possessor data on our map and in our lists. And when I presented this to a federal agency in the summer, this blew their mind that there are so many guns with such a fast turnaround just in Illinois that are homicide guns that have been recovered. So we've got 15 recoveries. And again, you can do that sorting, you can do that. So start looking at it in time to crime. This is so 0 is a really fast time to crime turnaround. So that was a lot to cover in 15 minutes. I hope I didn't go over too much. I'd love to answer questions. I'm going to put up my contact information real quick so that if anybody has questions and wants to reach out to me directly, you have that information right here. So I'm Merry McCarron. McCarron at MK Analytics is how you can reach me.